Sanborn maps. These were produced by the Sanborn Map Company for sale to fire departments all over the United States. They are two styles of maps. One is an overview or location map. It looks like this. Pretty much the same scale as you would see in any kind of street map that you might get from you might have gotten from AAA, or you buy at a gas station or 7-Eleven. And then you see on each one of these there's a number, there's numbers down here. Those are indicating the detailed maps, and I'll pull one of those up, and they're the kinds of things that's what you work from. I just pulled this one up at random. It doesn't look like it's got anything particularly interesting on it. Oh yeah, it does. Okay, so the individual maps, this is map number 25. These are scaled at 1 inch to 100 feet originally. So these books were about 20, each page was about 24 inches by 36 inches or across, maybe larger. And eventually they were, I think they were photographed, and the photographs were transferred to black and white, pure black and white. The original paper maps have color on it, but the color is not reproduced on what you can find these days at libraries. And in these maps, what you need to be looking for if you're going to be doing any model is you need to, of course, find the street that you want, and then somehow transfer the information you want about the buildings to some other location, some other piece of software, so you can mark them up correctly. One thing you'll note here is you can see there's a track right here that doesn't seem to go anywhere. That's not uncommon in Sanborn maps. They're not really interested in trying to show you where the tracks are today. There may have been a track there at one point in time, and it isn't now. You just don't know. So the tracks are sort of any kind of track you see. Maybe it's right, maybe it's not. What else can I say? There isn't a date on this one. Often there is. This date, this map was probably published in the 1950s. You can find these maps at libraries that might go back to the turn of the 20th century. My source for these maps have been public libraries. Many public libraries subscribe to the company that makes these available in digital form. If you hold the library card, you can have access to the maps, and they come in PDF files, and you can put the PDF files on your PC and use them later on for whatever purpose you need them for your own use. You shouldn't make copies and share them or sell them or anything like that, because they're not yours. But you can use the information in them. And what I have done is collected a fair number of maps for my home state, and through the help of distributed family across the nation, been able to collect maps from many other states as well. And so from this point on, I'm going to show you how I mark up a Sanborn map so that I can make a SketchUp model from it. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I process a Sanborn map. I've got a good collection of maps I've obtained from libraries, and I want to go into the state of Illinois, and I know about where I want to select a file. Let me get down to the main map there. Here's the map index that I'm looking for. Scroll this down. A little cooperation here, please. And I want something from this area around here. And so I'm going to pick number 77. That's the map I want. Iconize this. Down to my maps. Volume 5, number 77. And this is along North Avenue. Here's part of the Illinois, this part of the Illinois River right here. There's a big Procter & Gamble facility right there, and Goose Island is right there, which means this area, these structures right here, are very much in sight of the planned route. Now, I don't know whether this is necessary, but it's the habit I've gotten into where I enlarge the image that I want to grab, and then I basically just do copy. And then over in my editing software, I create a new file. I paste into the file. It's way too large, of course, for what. So I just get it out on its own. And so here is my copy of the Sanborn map in a run-of-the-mill pixel editor. Now, one of the things I'll do is go to, at this point, is go to one of my other files and copy this item right here. This is a scale that I made from carefully copying and straightening what's on most Sanborn maps. And all I really want to do here is just make a duplicate, put the duplicate over here. I don't need this file anymore. And now I've got something I can move around as a free-floating object, rotate in either direction, and I can use this to mark out the dimensions of the building that I want to make. Before I do that, you can see there's a lot of stuff on here. It's kind of chicken scratch like, and so one of the things I do is I try and figure out what don't I need, and I'll take a bit of time to erase all that. So for instance, I don't need to know that there's some kind of a foot patrol here, and I don't need, or here it's probably a fire patrol, and I don't need to know that this area was all sprinklered. So I'll get rid of things like that, or that it was owned by Procter & Gamble, or that it's on North Street, because I know things like that. I don't need to hang on to it, but actually it would be kind of nice to get rid of some of this extraneous stuff so I can see the important things. And so I'm going to do a bit of that and come back and show you what it looks like when I'm finished. Okay, so I've cleaned up a little bit here, and the first thing I want to do is identify permanently where this is from. So I'll make a point of getting the map name in here. Let me take care of that real quick. So this is from volume 5, and it's sheet number 77, and gee, let me make sure it stands out, so I'll see if I can put that in red, and that this street, just to be on the safe side, I'll mark down that it's on North Avenue. And I want both of those to be permanently part of the diagram, so I'm going to drop those down onto the background of the diagram. Next thing I do is begin to mark up the information that I need to build the model, and that is all found on different bits of information on this map. The maps themselves they're called fire insurance maps, and in fact what they were is things typically sold to fire departments, and so everything that's in here is meant to help a fire department understand when they get a call to 1277 West North Avenue, to have some understanding of what they're going to see when they get there. The maps do not show much in the way of detail for what's on the street. I suppose the assumption is the firemen will see that as soon as they get there. And so a lot of the detail is what's around the sides and back of the building. And so what I do is I start off with marking up the heights, and in no particular order, I know the heights are always put roughly in the same spot on each building, and I just go through and find things that look about like they might be a height. And over time, I've gotten pretty good at spotting what the relevant piece of information is. And so I mark up a whole bunch of what I can see right off the get-go. I have an expectation I'm not going to get everything right. And so I mark the heights, and what I'll do later on, I'll just give you a preview here, is I'll change the opacity so I can see through the colors. I'm not going to do that right now. I don't need to. I use blue. I use the same colors for every piece of information, so I have some consistency from map to map, so I'm never really confused about what I'm looking at. I use blue for height. I use yellow to indicate the presence of windows, and windows are these peculiar little marks here. You can see I'm tagging a number of them, and what they say is, like this one here that's got 2 of those marks, it means there's windows on 2 floors. This is 2 floors, 2 floors. This mark right here, there's only 1 of them, so that's first floor. This one's got 3, 1, 1, 1, 3. This one looks like 4 or 5. And I've got a couple over here I can tag. And so I get those marked up. I continue on, and now I'm going after information about the walls, and I'm looking for things like, does it say, for instance right here, I'm marking out that it says pilasters. These numbers along the edges are how thick, the thickness of the walls, and when I find these numbers, it tells me that this is a masonry construction, that they're talking about the thickness of the wall out of bricks. If it was, say, cast concrete that had been lifted into place, it wouldn't have this information. It would have something else, probably something along the lines of, it would say it was just fireproof. And if it was a wood frame, it wouldn't have those numbers at all. There wouldn't be any information at all. So it's like the absence of information tells me it's a wood frame construction. And so I continue to mark up these and just grab as many as I can. And next thing I'll do is, do I notice anything I know that's going to be on a roof? I'll make that as red. And here I see the word raised. And so that tells me it's on the roof. Maybe these 2 elevators are up on the roof. And I think that's all I see. Then any fire escapes, there's one right here. Mark those in purple. And at this point, I'm now able to see pretty much that I've missed a few things. I'll come back to those. And then the last thing that I'll mark is, there is a piece of information on here that tells me how many floors. And that's usually in the corner. And in this particular case, it says 5, so it's 5 floors. And the B means a basement. Usually, I don't need to know about the basement, but sometimes when figuring out how to make the floors, it turns out that some portion of the basement is visible above the ground. And so I'll go through and finish marking off as many of these features as I can find. And I get that done. And I know I've missed some here, but I'll get those later on. I just want to show you the few things that I'm going for. And then the last thing I grab is what they call the parapets, or sometimes called firewalls. And those are indicated by these lines outside. You see these lines right up here. The size the number of lines is how many inches in increments of 6 the firewall rises above the wall. So in this case, this one rises 24 inches up the wall, and it looks like it might go this far back. Well, let me make that a little bit wider. It's hard to see. So now I'll do that one. I'll do one there. There's probably one there, there, there. And you can see I'm not trying to be very careful about how these get drawn. I just want to get in the general area that there seems to be something I need to pay attention to at certain points on the structure. And so I get a lot of this done quickly and find later on that there's some detail about it that causes me to draw more lines or erase some of the lines that I've drawn. But so at this point, it really is just to serve what do I need to notice when I'm building. And so let me get the last one in, and then I'll change the opacity of these things so you can see the effect. This one's going to be parapets at 30% opacity. And these are my markups, also at 30% opacity. And at this point, you know, you can see I've got a fair amount of the stuff marked. I may, like I said, I may see, you know, I see something else I want to make a note of that's up on the roof, and I can go in and, you know, mark that and mark that, and another missing dimension, and I can tag that and tag that as well. Okay? My next step is to dimension the buildings. I'll show you how I do that on a couple, and then turn off the recording. I'll finish my work and come back and show you when it's complete. Basically, all I need to do is move my scales over someplace where I can line them up, and I say, okay, that's 70. And you can, if you look real close, let me see if I can make this much larger here. If I bring this in and show you the zoomed in version, and you say, oh, well, that's 72 feet, isn't it? Well, except you come down here and maybe it's 71 feet here, and right there it's 69 feet. Well, the original papers, when they scanned these, you know, they're ancient papers exposed to humidity, sunlight. They're no longer exactly flat, and so rounding is basically it's pretty essential. Otherwise, you just go nuts. So in this particular instance, I'm going to say it's probably 70 feet, and that dimension runs that way. And I go, oh, wait a sec, that's too big. Let's make that a little thinner. That's better. It runs about 70 feet that way, and I grab this other scale and I bring it down here. And let me change the zoom so it's a little more practical working space. And I come down and I say, and that pretty much looks like it's 40. And so I'll put in that this part of the building is 40 feet across. And I do that to all of this stuff. And I'll show you that in a moment. Sometimes when you're measuring, it's not entirely obvious what the correct piece of information is. This one looks to be 20 is about right. This one here, oh, it's hard to say. So sometimes it works best if you just start to look at the bigger picture. And this whole length is 90. And so if this one checked out to be 20, and that leaves me 70 to mess around with. And this one over here, not clear, not clear. Let's call that one 50. That gives us our 70. Where did I? Is it 70 in total or 90 in total? What am I dealing with here? I'm dealing with 90 in total. So I've used up 70 of my 90. So this one down here, it has to be 20 of something. And get the width in. I only need to get the width in when I have a column like that. I only need to get the width in one location. It's looks like 10 feet. So down here, I'll just edit this one and call it 10 by 20, and I'll add a line saying, I'm talking about that space there. One thing that's difficult with these is occasionally you come across something that's on an angle and you need to understand what the angle is. What I do in those cases is take my ruler here and line it up someplace, and through a process of trial and error change the angle and see if I can get it to align. I've already done that before I started the video here, so I know the correct answer is 8, and I'm just doing this to show that that seems to be about right. Maybe it's not quite perfect, but it's an acceptable amount. And one of the things you notice is it's the wrong answer on the opposite side. In this particular case, what I'll do is I'll use the angle that seems to be correct for the greatest distance of the buildings and apply that on the opposite side. Over here, you can see it's a different situation altogether. I'll have to measure that one separately. And so at this point, what I do is I simply mark out that this is there's an angle here. Run it out like that. Run it out like that, and mark it that it's an 8-degree angle, and that's good enough for now. So here's the diagram marked up, pretty much complete now. I'm going to zoom in to point out a couple things that are a little uncommon. One of the things you'll see is this symbol right here, this X, that it's indicative of some kind of unusually large chimney, probably a masonry chimney. Over here, in a different place, here's a round one. This is indicative of a steel circular tube power stack kind of thing. You don't see them on every diagram, but they do appear. The fire escape, which I've mentioned before, that's fairly uncommon. I mean, it really looks like it's a little ladder, and it's got the letters FE attached to it. Some of the things that I don't pay attention to usually are, you can see these arcs that are here and here and here. They're indicative of doors that pass through the walls. For the most part, I pay no attention to them whatsoever. If I need the space, I'll even erase them. But sometimes if it's an elevator, if I think that there might be evidence of the elevator up on the roof, this tells me where the doors might go on the outside of the elevator. The word raised is almost always indicative of something on the roof. Here you can see it says raised 12 feet. I don't know whether it's a solid thing or a skylight of some sort. It's left to the imagination to figure out, absent any photo evidence. Here you see where it says 1 to 1.5. That just is basically saying some portion of the roof line changes to about half again the height of the floor. It's like there's maybe a large mezzanine or something present. Most of the time you just see it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever. Let's see here. These dash lines as such are uncommon. Also, it's an indication that it's a sharply pitched roof, in which case you can see here You know, it's a difference of 8 or maybe 10 feet, 10 feet up here. And so this is just basically being pitched up that height. This here turns out that wasn't anything to do with the dimensions at all. It really is about the width of the alley. It says 200. It's wrong. It's about 20 feet. Finding things that are not quite sensible is fairly common. Then the last thing to point out here is on this window symbol. Sometimes you see this little, happy face smile underneath. And here's an example where it isn't present. What I understand from this arc, this half arc, is there's something about the window that would make it difficult to get through. Maybe there's iron bars, maybe there's wire embedded in the glass. But generally what it's saying is don't expect easy access through these windows, through this window. Over here, there's no bar. That should be fairly straightforward to get in. Sometimes when it's just one symbol, let's see, where's an example? One right here, might be a window, might be a door, you don't know. And then the last thing I guess I'll point out is you can see sometimes, get my scales out of the way, sometimes I've left things incomplete, like what these specific dimensions are. I found that when you're dealing with an angle like this, it's best to just to go from someplace that's where it is and work your way over there. So it seems to be right here is about 100 feet. I know this is 20. I know this is 25. I'll get in. I know this is 20. I can get in and I can measure this distance. I'm not going to worry about the precise distance here or here. What I'll do is I'll build the model from this direction over, and wherever these lines fall on this particular angle, that's as wide as the walls are going to be. And I'll do the same thing over here. I really don't know what this dimension is. I'll just come down, I'll build this part of the model here on the left. I'll have this angle drawn in, and I'll just connect them up, and that'll be the right answer.